Okay, calling the meeting to order. I'd like members of the public and those in the audience to refer to the public notice about how to participate in the meeting remotely or in person. I will start off with the land acknowledgement. The city of Berkeley recognizes that the community we live in was built on the territory of the Huchu, the ancestral and unceded land of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people, the ancestors and descendants of the sovereign Verona band of Alameda County. This land was and continues to be of great importance to all of the Ohlone tribes and descendants of the Verona band. As we begin our meeting tonight, we acknowledge and honor the original inhabitants of Berkeley, the documented 5,000-year history of the vibrant community of the West Berkeley Shell Mound, and the Ohlone people who continue to reside in the East Bay. We recognize that Berkeley's residents have and continue to benefit from the use and occupation of this unceded stolen land since the city of Berkeley's incorporation in 1878. As stewards of the laws regulating the city of Berkeley, it is not only vital that we recognize the history of this land, but also recognize that the Ohlone people are present members of Berkeley and other East Bay communities today. All right. With that, if we can have a motion to approve the agenda, or if any members have changed the agenda.
We need to initiate no public before we get started.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
This is safety from here. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll now proceed with roll call. For the record, this meeting was called to order at 6:33 p.m. Starting with the roll call, Chair Cayetano.
Here.
And Chair Cayetano is participating from just cause provision. Vice Chair Wilson.
Here.
Board Member Benoit. Here. Board Member Calamita.
Here.
Board Member Edmonds.
Here.
Board Member Lockwood.
Here.
Board Member Wells. Currently here. And Board Member Williams.
Here.
Okay, on behalf of the OGPA, we have Director Aguilar joining us today, data analyst MD, our investigator clerk Fanny Weinberg, and our newest intern Esther Funk, and myself, Policy Analyst Amigo. On behalf of the BPD, we have Acting Deputy Chief Turner joining us remotely, and Lieutenant Bonaventure joining us in person. With that, Chair, we have form.
All right. So now, if any board members have changes to the agenda, or if I can get a motion to approve. So moved. Second.
Okay, seeing or hearing no objections, the motion is approved.
All right, and I will turn over to you, Jose, for public comment.
Thank you, Chair. With that said, we'll now proceed to public comment. As a reminder, speakers are generally allowing up to a few minutes, so maybe a lot of less time. If there are any speakers, then comment on any matter within the board's jurisdiction at this time, except confidential personnel matters. Now we do have a policy review for item 9A tonight. I'd just like to remind members of the public that there's a separate public comment portion reserved for that later on in the meeting. So with that said, anybody physically present would like to provide public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll now move on to our virtual attendees. Okay, we do have one hand raised, Mark Baker, you've been granted permission to speak. And one woman left with the timer on the screen.
Hello, everybody. I hope that you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Mark Baker. I'm president of the Soft Lights Foundation. We advocate for the protection of individuals with disabilities from the hazards of LED lights. The switch to LED flashing lights on vehicles has created new risks to health, safety, and civil rights. There are no state or federal limits on the intensity of vehicle flashing lights, and as a result, cities and companies have installed excessively bright flashing lights, which impair vision and cognitive functioning, and which put the safety of first responders and the public at risk. State regulations published by the California Highway Patrol in the California Code of Regulations, Title 13, Sections 810 to 18, permit only 3 colors for vehicle flashing lights: red, yellow, and blue. The CHP also categorizes flashing lights. All LED flashing lights are categorized as Class A, The only permitted color for Class A in sections 816 and 817 of the regulations is red. Therefore, amber, blue, white, and yellow LED auxiliary vehicle warning lamps are prohibited by state law. In addition, federal law prohibits auxiliary warning lamps that impair the effectiveness of required lighting equipment. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has stated in letters of interpretation that all warning lamps must be steady burning, not flashing, and that warning lamps cannot be excessively bright. Brightness for LED lights is measured using the metric called luminance with units of candela per square meter or nit. Any government entity that uses auxiliary warning lamps must have a written policy that establishes the maximum luminance that is safe and comfortable. Neither the city of Berkeley nor the Berkeley Police Department have established an upper limit on luminance for vehicle flashing lights. LED flashing lights have been documented to trigger seizures, migraines, and panic attacks in individuals with disabilities. Therefore, a government entity must also have a written policy which ensures the non-discrimination of individuals with disabilities when exposed to LED flashing lights. It is our understanding that the Berkeley Police use LED flashing lights that violate state and federal laws, and that the Berkeley Police are not enforcing the state and federal prohibitions of excessively bright auxiliary flashing lights. Therefore, the Soft Lights Foundation respectfully requests an investigation and report by the Berkeley Police Accountability Board. Thank you.
Thank you. With that said, is there any additional public comment? Vice Chair, at this time, I do not see any additional items.
All right. With that, I will move to approval of the minutes for the special meeting on August 7th. Do I have a motion, or does anyone have any corrections to the minutes?
Move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Are there any objections to the approval of the August 7 minutes? Seeing and hearing none, we can move on to the minutes for July 9th, the regular meeting.
Okay. Oh, sorry, July 9th, yeah, I should have done this one. Sure.
I move we accept the minutes. Second.
Are there any objections to the motion? Seeing or hearing none, the minutes are approved. Okay. And with that, we can proceed.
Let's turn it over to Director Aguilar for the OP staff.
Yes, good evening, Chair.
Sorry about that. Okay, that was on mine. Board members, colleagues, members of the public, we're excited to be back. I'll have the record note that our board member was Rod 640. We'll put that in the minutes. Thank you again for joining us. We're happy to be back after the recess. Just some light updates. Even though we're in recess, we did have an eventful, I think, summer for us in the office. We have hosted our first internship cohort with the city's youth work program. They completed their term with us. We're in talks with the youth works for more students to come back. And we also have momentum there in terms of our internship program. We have a new intern we're going to present shortly. We also had the opportunity to participate in the NACO regional conference in San Francisco. These conferences, the NACO had them routinely. They stopped them after or during the pandemic, but they have now continued them. There was one earlier this year in the East Coast, and now they returned to the West Coast. It was a good collaboration. We had some PAB PRC alum participating. Ethan Ramsey, who's the first chair of the PAB and also was a PRC member, was one of the speakers. He was in the panel regarding immigration. that was also moderated, with, George Perez Velez, who's also a name known to Berkeley. He was a PRC commissioner, serves in BART. We also had, our office participate, in a panel regarding the, swinging of the sort of climate with, oversight, and we talked about, we did a short case study on Berkeley, and where we were in terms of our situation here in civil oversight. And that was, presented by our policy analyst, Jose Murillo. And just a gentle reminder, our annual conference is coming up in October. We're happy to take as many board members that are interested in attending, and, at least the chair has committed. Other board members have gone in the past. That's something that we're very mindful about in terms of our, budget allocation, and ensuring we reserve, funds for as many board members that want to attend. So please, if you're interested, let us know and make sure we get you there. Those are the immediate updates, operationally, and what we did this past summer. There are certain things that we're bringing before you today for your consideration, so I won't, talk about them at this juncture. But I did just want to yield the floor, to our new intern, just to give, an opportunity for Esther to come before you and present herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Esther Fan, and I'm currently a fourth year undergraduate student at UC Berkeley, majoring in sociology and social welfare with a minor in public policy. Today is my first day joining the OPTA team. I'm looking forward to contributing to the team in the following year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Esther. Chair, I'll go ahead and yield to the board if they have any, questions or want us to address anything at this time.
Okay, Chair. Okay, Tom, do you wanna say anything?
No, but I'm glad that the director did the NACL regional conference and that former chair Izzy Ramsey was there. I heard that there was a good showing. So thanks for doing that. Feel free to let the board members know in advance whenever that happens, and I'm sure some people would like to attend if it's in San Francisco.
Okay. To be fair, I think we did get information about that in advance. Okay, I don't have a report. I'll give an update in the subcommittee report section. Do any other board members report outside of subcommittee work? All right, let's move on to the chief of police's report.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good evening. Hi, everyone. I'm Melanie Turner, and I'm a lieutenant with Berkeley PD. And I do know some of you haven't had the chance to meet yet. I'm working in Deputy Chief Tate's place this week, and I have the chief's message for you. So first, to start off with cases of interest, we have recently seen an increase in First Amendment audits. So basically what that is folks will come and record at government buildings or public spaces to test sort of employee responses there and official responses. These are lawful activities, of course, and sometimes do generate calls for service for us. So we've had a handful of those recently in the last month or so. In the calls for service where BPD responded, officers made sure to prioritize folks' constitutional rights, and de-escalation was the focus there for those incidents. On August 21st, we had a hit and run with a firearm brandishing. A couple was rear-ended at San Pablo and Ashby Avenue. When they tried to follow the driver, the suspect exited and displayed a handgun in his waistband. The officers were able to track the suspect to his residence in Albany and were able to safely detain the suspect. He was subsequently charged for a felony hit and run, a brandishing, concealed firearm, and felon in possession of a firearm. The next case was a robbery series closure. Detectives identified two suspects that were tied to a series of robberies through Berkeley, UC Berkeley, Oakland, and Vacaville. With the use of ALPR data, search warrants were executed in San Francisco and Fremont on August 21st. The evidence located linked the suspects to at least 4 robberies. One suspect was arrested. The investigation is ongoing. And this case was a good example of regional collaboration with our other city partners. There was a South Campus robbery and a pursuit case on August 22nd at 2 a.m. Two suspects robbed a victim at gunpoint on Channing Way, stealing their gold necklace and fled in a vehicle. Officers were able to quickly locate the suspects. A short pursuit ended in a crash downtown. Arrests were made of both those individuals. Evidence was recovered, including 2 loaded handguns, ammunition, 270 grams of marijuana, and the victim's jewelry. Moving on to our staffing update. We're currently staffed at 152 officers and currently have 8 recruits in the police academies. We have 2 graduating this coming Tuesday from Alameda County Sheriff's Office, and we have 11 individuals in backgrounds for police positions specifically. We hope to send 2 people to the next academy in October at Alameda County Sheriff's Office, followed by 5 positions that we have in January at Cocoa County. For dispatchers, we are currently staffed at 20 out of 36. We're excited that we have 3 new dispatchers starting at the end of September and have 7 folks in backgrounds right now for that position. For community service officer, we're staffed at 31 of 32. We just had 2 new CSOs start this past week, so we're excited about that. And we are currently fully staffed at parking enforcement. So other information to provide from the chief regarding the radio encryption. Earlier this afternoon, the chief did share a detailed email related to the East Bay region's move towards countywide encryption of public safety radio channels. She wants to reiterate the BPD is maintaining its current encryption settings at this time. This means that members of the media and the public may still monitor certain BPD radio channels, so that hasn't changed. For background, in 2020, the California Department of Justice required encryption of sensitive, personally identifiable information to protect privacy, prevent identity theft, and safeguard crime victims. We are assessing the balance between transparency, privacy protections, and operational needs, and acknowledge that a future transition to countywide encryption may ultimately be required. Regardless of radio status, BPD remains committed to transparency through our social media and media releases, our transparency hub, and our alerts through AC Alert and Nixle. In response to recent and ongoing questions about BPD's interactions with Department of Homeland Security and ICE, we want to again share the following information. We do not participate in federal immigration enforcement. This includes refusing requests for traffic control, booking or transportation assistance, or on-scene operational support. We will respond to protect life and safety if a crime or emergency occurs, and we'll verify the lawful authority of anyone presenting as law enforcement. If we learn of reports of ICE activity in our city, the city manager who in turn will notify the mayor and council. And residents and staff can always call 911 if they witness arrests by unidentified agents. BPD will respond to ensure public safety and can work to verify the identity and authority of persons purporting to be law enforcement officials. This position aligns with our department and community values, as well as Berkeley sanctuary city policies. So that is all I have for the chief's update. Are there any questions that I may be able to answer?
I have a question. Go ahead. Thank you for that report. I didn't quite understand about the First Amendment audits. Could you explain what that's about and what the reaction was?
Yeah, so we've seen this before. It's not new for us, but there will be individuals that will show up and start recording inside a public space and sort of test to see what the response from employees will be. Generally, it seems like they want to make sure that their rights to record and be in that space while recording is allowed. So generally, that is what the practice is. They want to make sure that the public space, the employees are following the rules that they should be.
And did you say there was an incident or law enforcement response? I didn't understand
Yes.
the last part.
Yes, we did have a few calls from in the last month or so, a handful of calls. We had a couple that were at the school district where there was a call for service. And so we responded and made sure that, you know, the person was allowed to record and wasn't violating any laws or rules or anything. And that was it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else?
I have a question.
Okay.
Thanks for being here, by the way, Lieutenant. Just a couple follow-ups. For the encrypted radio, do you know why there's been other jurisdictions have been pushing for encrypted radio? Is there a particular reason for it?
I can't answer that, unfortunately. I don't know. Sorry.
And then on the sanctuary city update that you had, have you had any reason to verify people purportedly being federal law enforcement officials in Berkeley?
Not at this time.
Okay, so there have, and has there been have you had calls for service that maybe alarms from the community on that?
So we did actually have, so I have from the chief, thank you for bringing this up, that there was a call from an agent with Homeland Security, actually this morning, that Homeland Security advised that they were in Berkeley in order to contact someone at a residence for what they called a quote unquote resident application. They did not request any information or support from us, and we did not offer to provide any assistance. A short time later, we learned that they had left our city, and we were provided no information on who they were attempting to contact, whether any contact was actually made with anyone, and what further actions they might have taken. The chiefs understands that events like this are obviously of concern to our council and our community. She also wanted to caution that sharing information without us having more information at this time can cause more fear without facts to indicate it is needed. So we're remaining committed to our position following our current city and department policy and state law, and obviously most importantly our values and responsibility to protect our community. So that's the only one that I'm aware of at this time.
What was the stated reason again that they gave?
The stated reason was a resident application.
Okay. And then there wasn't a public, an additional public request. It was from.
Correct.
Okay.
It seemed like more of an advisement from my knowledge.
Got it. And is that a normal thing that you would expect would happen if, Homeland Security was in the area?
I have limited experience with that. But yes, I would expect that we would be advised, but I also think that it's possible that we wouldn't have an advisement. I'm not totally sure how DHS or ICE has been handling that in each city.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the update.
You're welcome.
Yeah, one follow-up. How did we know they left the community?
I'm sorry?
How did we know the Homeland official had left the area?
That's a great question. I don't know. I'm not sure how we were provided that information.
Great, thank you. I think we will move on to subcommittee reports.
Thank you.
Okay. And always, I'll go down the list and subcommittees report. This is the time to provide it. I'll start off with the regulation subcommittee.
We've continued to work with the internal stakeholders and getting proposals and counter proposals from the union. And last week we had 2 meetings. And this morning we had another meeting, so we've been working hard on this, and it continues to be a challenging project. In part because the internal stakeholders are trying to reach consensus on all the different provisions. And Board Member Leftwich, do you have anything to add?
No,
No, that's all for now. We continue to have lots of meetings.
Okay,
Can I just ask a question? I know at some point we sent a request to the city attorney's office to clarify this issue of whether or not all of the city departments need to be on the same page as the PAB, so everybody needs to be on the same page in order to advance various proposals. Have we gotten a response from the city attorney's office on that inquiry?
well, I can just respond when it comes to disputes within the internal stakeholder group. We've been advised that if we cannot reach consensus, then the matter will be brought to the city council and the city council will decide. There are still several other issues though, that process issues that are unresolved, and we have been told that the regulations will have to come back to the board. But there's some uncertainty about that, as well as what happens if there's impasse. So there's some process questions that are unresolved.
So are there particular issues where there is disagreement now among the internal group that are ready to be teed up then for council to weigh in on?
Well, we haven't gotten to the point of teeing it up to council, but there are some issues that we continue to go back and forth on, and right now we've gone back. In the meeting this morning, for example, there was an issue, and we decided that we would each side, let's say, go back and see if they could compromise in some ways. We'll probably have one more meeting about that particular issue, and if we can't reach agreement, I would imagine it'll go to council.
Okay.
And on the question of whether or not all of these internal stakeholders have to be at every meeting, I don't know whether the chair might chime in here, but I don't know whether we've gotten a definitive answer on that question. It's a little bit, what's the word? Even if not all of the stakeholders have to be at the meeting and in agreement, if it does go to council and the stakeholders who disagree appear, it threatens that it will unravel. So practically speaking, it's useful to have internal stakeholders agree.
Although we were told initially by the city attorney's office that since these are our regulations, that our voice should be given some deference, but that really hasn't happened.
Okay, and how many years have we been working on this?
Board Member Leftwich put
Yeah.
together a chronology, so she might.
It's been 2 years, more than 2 years since this board passed the draft regulations, which took more than a year for us to draft. And then we met with an initial city negotiator who just met with this board in closed session, and we were told that that negotiator would represent us with the union, without a bunch of other stakeholders. And then the city changed negotiators, and we've been working with the second labor negotiator for more than a year, where we've had this new process of internal stakeholders all meeting.
Okay. I would love to figure out, this is a comment to the chair and the director, how to bring some more public accountability to this process. Because it's pretty outrageous, I think, how long it's taken, how much time it's taken, and how little progress has been made. So I'm not sure what that is. Originally, I thought maybe there was a list of outstanding questions that had been posed to the city attorney that hadn't been answered. And
Yes, that's
correct. All right, so one ask that I have of staff is that for our next meeting, you can just prepare so that we can publish that list of outstanding questions, the date it was submitted to the city attorney's office, because I'd like to again, bring some accountability into the mix here. It just seems like there is no accountability on many sides. And then maybe we can have some other discussion about how else to make more visible some of the challenges that are going on here. Okay.
Yeah, for an update, Vice Chair, I was supposed to have a meeting with the mayor today about the regs, and we moved it to next week to accommodate me. So I'll be meeting with her and her staff next week to discuss it. I also had a call with the city attorney's office about a month ago about this, and sent follow-up questions after that call that board member Calavita had prepared. So yeah, I agree with you that it's outrageous that it's been taking this long, and that there's seems to be that no one really knows what should be happening, and so there's a lot of like just we're just like kind of puttering around with the process and hoping that until we run into a wall, hoping we don't run into a wall. So we're trying to figure out how to shed light on the process before that happens. And I really do have a goal for things to be as clear as possible, and for there to be a finish line by the end of this year. I said that there would be a goal of, we were told that it would be finished by June of this year, and that that deadline came and gone without any acknowledgement really by anyone in the city. So I agree with you that we should be more public and try to raise awareness about what the delay that has been happening, and we'll provide the board with a fuller update after the meeting with the mayor next week.
Okay, great.
I have to say, that I think even absent a very maybe unnecessarily complicated process, it makes sense that it makes some sense that this is taking a very long time, because every paragraph of the draft regulations contains what appear to be, most people would consider, minutia. And then there's discussion about whether it should be 7 days or 10 days, really nitty gritty, low level stuff that is nonetheless very important to the officer, to the office, and to different stakeholders. And so, to some extent, I think it is probably really clear that this is going to take a while, given that we all have to get on the same page, because some of it's really appears to be minutia, but each paragraph of these regs takes a lot of haggling.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much more time on this now, but that premise that everybody has to get on the same page, that's what I'm still a bit confused about, because there are regulations. But I think we can go into this further at a future meeting where we have some public documentation of what's gone on. Do you want to continue?
Okay. I'll now move on to the policy review subcommittee.
No update.
Metrics and operations.
I have been really getting a lot done on an updated or new, I think, board policy manual for us that would replace our standing rules. So I'm happy to report that, and soon you all will see a draft.
Okay.
I just want to make one comment. I noticed on this chart under the regulations subcommittee, we have Chief Lewis as a BPD rep. And actually that should be not applicable, because when we had the subcommittee that board member Calavita and I served on, we did have a representative. We have Lieutenant Montgomery, which is another frustrating thing, because we did work with the department on the regulations. So in a sense, we had a meet and confer then. Now we're doing another meet and confer. Many events, we just put an MA there.
We'll go ahead and take that. Up next, outreach engagement.
No update.
And the arrest code of prohibition subcommittee, I know there's 9 for tonight as well.
No update other than the item.
Okay. And policies and practices related to academic clearances.
Our subcommittees met once and we have another meeting, I think in a couple of weeks, making some progress.
And from our liaison list, is there any updates? Chair Cayetano on EIS or Vice Chair Wilson on FFP related matters?
No, I don't. Chair.
No, but I am meeting with Arlo this month.
Perfect. And then lastly, our policy complaints on to individual board members. I know some of these we have with the request, board member Calvita.
No update at this time. It's in the works.
Okay. And with that, Vice Chair concludes our subcommittee report.
All right, we'll move to the discussion and action items, 9A, turn it over to ODP staff.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Just to, so this first item is on the presentation of the new policy complaint that was presented to our office. Just want to note that it should be a PR 006, not 004. So just a brief overview, we received it on August 9th. So right after the board special meeting, the primary focus of this focuses, or actually heard a bit about it during public comment. The speaker that was actually the complainant assistance. But it's an overview of the issue in terms of the prohibition on auxiliary MD lights on vehicles and the lack of enforcement and the use by various agencies and members of the public. So the main concern that we, or rather not necessarily the main concern, but the main potential areas of review from our preliminary analysis, should the board want to take on this review, we didn't identify any specific policies, but we did make what could be a potential practice and procedure review under the Berkeley Vision Zero initiative, which really focuses on traffic safety. We don't make a specific recommendation in terms of accepting or rejecting this policy complaint. We leave it, we're in a sort of transition in terms of our workload assessment. So we leave it to the board to ultimately decide if this is a review they want to take on at this time. Direct guidelines, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. And as part of the section B, there is technically a moment for members of the public and for the complainant to be able to provide a statement. As I mentioned, we heard from the complainant during the initial public comment section. So at this time, I'll open it if there's any members of the public that would like to provide public comment on item 9A. Vice Chair, at this time, I don't see any hands raised online or from those physically present. I'm not sure if Senator Bowinger has any comments as it relates to this policy review. Okay. Okay, with that, we could proceed to the chair's discussion and action, or to the board discussion and action.
All right. Board members? Any thoughts on this one and chair?
I was confused, because some of it, I thought I read somewhere that it was about new vehicles having overly bright headlights. But I didn't understand if this is only about flashing lights on city vehicles or whether it's also about the overly bright lights on SUVs and such. Am I mistaken? Was that, I thought that was.
I understood it to be about both.
Yeah, both comments are touched.
Like the city, or I guess the police department's not enforcing these regulations on vehicles that are driving around Berkeley, and we aren't adhering to that with our own lights. That's how I understood
I
it.
see. I guess I don't quite see how it's a policy review. It seems like there's a violation in practice.
Well, we can do a practice review, but
I'm not proposing that, I'm just saying, I don't think that this is about modifying, policy.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask, Alice Marino about that, but do you know?
No.
Do you have a question?
I do kind of have a question, which is just so just to spell it out. It's that the police department's own vehicles are not complying with this light ordinance, but then also we're not enforcing, or this law about LED lights on, you know, vehicles belonging to the public and other city vehicles. So they're arguing that like BPD should go after, should bring to task the fire department. The LED light violations. Yeah.
So our police vehicles, the way they're equipped, we purchase the equipment through certified dealers that do police vehicles throughout the entire country. So we don't go just seek out specialized items and so forth. Buy packages through certain companies that supply the police with these different lights, and yeah, most of the lights are LEDs now, are just very good. The bulbs go on lights, so to speak. But yeah, all of our police vehicles, they get equipped pretty much the same through standards.
So if anything, it would seem like the vendors are in violation of federal law to the extent that they're saying you're non-compliant with federal law, right? I mean,
Well, I don't know about that because they probably still produce it. I don't know if there's a law that produces it.
but it sounds right, but no one could use it.
Yeah, but I don't. I'm not privy to.
Yeah, it's no doubt.
But
Yeah.
the police vehicles we have and the way that we help our vehicles. The way police vehicles operate throughout the country.
Do we know if the complainant has approached the department about this concern?
Not to our knowledge, I know I asked staff if they have approached the department. Cause I think we may be thinking the same thing. They're like,
No, go ahead.
we're thinking about, but what I was thinking is a different option from those listed here. But rather to share this with the department and see what they have to say about it. Because what I don't know, because this was like a very nuanced set of issues. And this is clearly an advocacy organization. If it's truly a violation of the law, or it's not a quote unquote best practices approach, this organization would like to advance, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'd like to better understand that, and I think the department could probably tell us, I'm assuming perhaps the vehicle vendors that Lieutenant Bonaventure mentioned, or that vendor probably is familiar with these issues and maybe has something to share. So I feel like that would be the most expeditious way of dealing with this, but just sort of not starting with a full investigation.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
So maybe the motion is to ask staff to send this to the department, to the chief, and ask perhaps for a response in 30 days or something like that. And when I say a response, what we really want to know is what's the department's view on these allegations of the lights being illegal and the department's failure to enforce through its traffic enforcement arm these regulations on vehicles that are driving around the city.
Yeah, I would want to also, I agree with that. Also, maybe like just add sending an inquiry to the city attorney's office, because, you know, a lot of this relies on legal interpretation that I don't think the board is, you know, well positioned to make for the city. So Yeah.
Okay, do you want to make a motion?
Me?
Yeah.
Sure. Move to refer this to police department, city attorney's office for further inquiry.
I'll second.
Okay, next Tuesday, we'll follow to this one. Board Member Calvita,
Yes.
Board Member Lethbridge,
Yes.
Board Member Williams. Yeah. Board Member Wells,
Yeah.
Board Member Evans,
Yes.
Board Member Douglas Rico,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilson,
Yeah.
and Chair Cantano.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, let's move on to 9B. Board members, as well, take it away.
Page 16. Thanks. Appreciate that.
You were sorry. No, let's just start. Okay. Oh, yeah. Board member Evans and I have had a couple of conversations with Deputy Chief Tate and Sergeant Blackie regarding the police arrest quota language. And the language that they presented to us, being board members, board member Evans and I, is the proposed language. This department does not establish or enforce quotas for arrests or citations and should not use the number of arrests or citations issued by a peace officer or parking enforcement employee as the sole criterion for promotion, demotion, dismissal, or the earning of any benefit provided by the agency. Enforcement activity may be considered as one component of a comprehensive performance assessment that includes professionalism, judgment, community engagement, training, and adherence to department policy. This policy is consistent with California Vehicle Code 41600, 41603, and Government Code 8207. Board member Evans and I are of the opinion that we believe this proposed language sort of addresses and covers the practice of discrimination as it relates to police arrest quotas. And I think there's two things that are worthy of discussion. Like one, I think the approval of this language. And then two, I think whether this language should be a standalone policy or included in the existing fair and impartial policing policy to ensure that the efficacy of consistent practicing moving forward.
Yeah, thank you for working on this. I guess what jumped out at me was it seemed like this has a lot more than maybe necessary. And so I guess when I look at this, I'm just thinking, why don't we put a period after the word citations and call it done? You know, I mean, do we need all this other stuff about it not being the sole criteria, maybe considered?
Sure. Well, I'm of the opinion, and speaking for myself, I think language that is succinct and clear is more effective than I think language that is verbose and expansive. So I don't have an opposition to that.
Yeah, I do think one of the things we talked about in the meeting was like how they do the rest sort of the arresting officers making is considered as part of their sort of performance, but not fully. And I think if we omit that, there's part of me that worries we're allowing people to fill in themselves potentially in terms of how the arrests are used. So I like that being explicit in terms of.
What you said about now.
Sorry, I was saying that I like having the explicit in the policy how they use the number of arrests. So one of the things we talked about during our meeting was how they do look at the arrest as part of the sort of comprehensive evaluation of an officer, but obviously not sole criteria. I worry if we omit that, will that allow people to infer or assume?
No, the first sentence says that there should be no quotas for arrests, so,
I'm a
Um,
little, sorry.
Policy analyst Marino, do you happen to have at your disposal the standalone policy that we had proposed as part of the texting report? Because you worked on a standalone policy, which I thought was,
I don't have it immediately.
okay, and I should have,
I don't have it immediately available, but give me a moment.
I should have probably. What I thought was important about our prior proposal was that it talked about explicit or implicit arrest quotas. Disallowing explicit or implicit arrest quotas. Because that was one of the things that was of concern during the texting scandal, that it wasn't written down as a quota, but there was an expectation and encouragement, even if jocular, but it was an encouragement to reach 100 arrests a month. And so that's what triggered this whole discussion. And so I think that needs to be put in there too, somehow. Chair?
Yeah, thanks to the subcommittee for working on this. I kind of agree with Board Member Leftwich. I'm a little confused. What is the rationale for having the discussion? Oh, can you go back to the policy? Sorry. The proposed policy, Jose? What is the rationale for having the discussion of promotion, demotion, or dismissal? Because to me, it seems like those are two separate questions. One is, should there be a policy against establishing or enforcing arrest quotas in Berkeley? And, there's a separate question of whether job performance, can be used to provide benefits to police officers. I don't think that meeting an arrest quota should ever be cause for providing a promotion or benefit to an officer. And I don't know what is the department's hesitation around agreeing with that statement or that sentiment.
I didn't get the sense that maybe agree. I would just speak to this as like an employer. You want to take into account productivity as part of someone's performance review. And so the number of arrests you make at some point has to be taken into account in terms of your productivity. I would assume. I never managed the police department, but so I feel like there's definitely an appropriate use of your productivity in your performance evaluation process, just like there is in any job. And arrest is part of productivity for law enforcement. I don't know, did board member Edmonds and Wells, was this sort of language about the performance evaluation impact, was that advanced by you, or is that something the department asked for to be advanced?
That's something the department shared with us.
The department they included it, they shared it with us.
I'm imagining that they're doing that as a protective measure, because you will have individual employees filing grievances if in their performance evaluation does not meet expectations or whatever it is for law enforcement, and it says anything about arrest. I think if the language isn't in there, the concern would be, we can't use this at all
I just don't think it goes here. I mean, I would imagine, I don't know, there's some place written about
like
evaluations.
It's like the MOU.
Right, but I just think they're mixing two things unnecessarily, because I agree with the statement, but I just don't think it doesn't flow from just a simple statement that the department does not establish or enforce explicit or implicit quotas for arrests or citations, period. And then, you know, I think this language is okay, but I just don't think it goes here.
Yeah, I agree, but I'll also tell you, I am only really prioritizing and focused on policy that removes arrest quotas. And I think all of the other stuff, I think is a separate issue that should be either another subcommittee group or placed somewhere else.
There is a policy on performance evaluation. Separate from those.
Okay.
So this should go there if it isn't already.
So maybe I don't know if we are being asked formally to approve this today, or just.
Well, I think we don't have to,
It's an
I'm
addition.
proposing the language, but I'm also open to getting to language that we can all vote on and agree upon and continue to move forward.
So maybe it's, this department does not establish or enforce explicit or implicit quotas for arrests or citations, period. And then that would be our recommendation. And then you all get feedback from your department colleagues. What's the impact of removing the rest of the language, and could it be incorporated into the performance evaluation policy? Like you know, so like our preference would be, this is a clean quota policy, but help us understand why you need to have this language in this policy. I think if we understand it.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, I think in terms of the problem statement, if we're saying that we are either primarily or solely concerned just with ensuring there are not quotas, then yeah, I agree. Let's just have the first sentence. So, yeah, fine with.
Can I place two other points? First of all, I don't think this belongs specifically in the fair and impartial policing policy, which is solely about discrimination. This should be a general policy. The concern was not only when we saw the implicit arrest quotas, it wasn't actually about discrimination. It was about encouraging people to make arrests that then didn't necessarily hold up, you know. And so I don't frankly see, I know that there's been some interest in the department in putting it in this particular policy, but I don't see that necessary, that it goes there. I would rather see a standalone policy or under the policy that regulates arrests or something, but not here. Then my other point is, I would change the language, this department shall not establish emphasis or exclusive, because use of the word does makes it sound like this is not what we do.
That's a good
Our point is, it shall not do it. I think using does kind of is a defensive mechanism to say, we don't do this. But our point is, we want to prohibit it going forward.
Yeah, I would just add on the first point in terms of having it as a standalone policy. I think Board Member Wells and I were aligned on that after receiving that initial feedback. So, yeah. And certainly fine move.
Well, then maybe we're,
show.
yeah. So how would it read?
I have it written as this department shall not establish or enforce implicit or explicit quotas for arrests or citations, period.
Okay. So that's our feedback. I'm not sensing you need a vote from us right now.
No,
All right.
I think
Can I,
think our next step.
Sorry, can I weigh in
Sorry.
before we close?
Yeah.
I had a couple more things before we turn away from the discussion. The first is that I think that the question of what counts as a quota should be addressed in the definition of quota. And so I don't see a definition here. And there was a definition in the proposed policy that Board Member Calavita was talking about. So, you know, in order to evaluate the effectiveness of a policy, I think we would need to understand what the definition of an implicit or explicit quota is. And also, have you been able to work with the department on that definition? And is there a way to finagle the definition so that it would exclude certain performance evaluation metrics? You know, I also, if the department's going to talk about performance evaluation, I think there's a difference between ensuring that officers are active and setting a benchmark, an arbitrary benchmark that they need to meet in order to get benefits, which is something that I would like to avoid. But other than that, I agree with the statements that have been made about changing it to shall and making it more succinct. But thanks for your work.
I do have a question. What are the different definitions of a quota that could be used?
So this is
It sounds like it's in the form
this
of
is the policy that we had drafted
Okay,
as part of the recommendation. Part of the recommendations we had subsequent to the texting incidents.
Did you
It's
not
hard to
receive?
read.
we never received this.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think for ODPA staff, this has come up before, but when you saw there was a subcommittee, you went on arrests and quotas, it would have been helpful to provide the subcommittee with this as a resource. So I think maybe you can get this now, but I don't know that we need to look at it here.
No.
But draw from this for an initial definition of quotas to discuss with the department. Okay. Anybody have anything else on this one?
Great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move on to 9C, turn it over to ODPA.
Sorry, again, just gather my notes. Okay, okay, this is one of two policies that we included in our companion report with the downtown task force report. We signaled it to the subcommittee when they were doing their review of it. There was no real engagement at the public safety committee. There was also no real engagement at the city council level. We believe that these are important recommendations that should get a formal vote up or down by full council, so we want to bring it back. We do believe there's a significant value not only to our immediate oversight agency in our city here, but also its potential reforms that could impact the statewide civilian oversight community. So in the state of California, under government code section 12519, the attorney general is empowered with issuing written opinions on questions of law that are specific to public officials, and there's a list of the individuals that can request. So we have constitutional officers that can make requests. We have legislators that can make requests through this process, state agencies, county council, district attorneys and sheriffs, and city prosecuting attorneys. What's missing in the current law is a specific mention of civilian oversight. I have tried to wiggle my way into this process, and I got a polite response that I'm not a listed entity, which I knew, but I thought that there might be some way that we can utilize this service. However, if you go, the other benefit of it, if you go on the website, they have their formal written opinions, and they are they carry a lot of weight because it's from the Attorney General's office, and there's a lot of issues that we come across in the city of Berkeley, but in the oversight world in general, where it hasn't been legally tested yet, and it could benefit from a formal legal opinion in this route, without having to go through the court process and figure it out that way. So we thought this was relatively low hanging fruit, and non-controversial, for the city to formally call on the state legislators to amend that code section and specifically add heads of civilian oversight agencies. Again, we included this recommendation in our companion report, but it went untouched, so we're bringing it back up again formally to the council. So we have already submitted it for the September 30th agenda. It still has to go through the process with the Agenda and Rules Committee. There is a bypass process though that empowers charter officers to politely reject any recommendation or referral to a policy committee. So if I do intend to ask the Agenda Rules Committee to send it to council without sending it to a public safety committee, because I think it is prime for a formal city council vote. But we wanted to open up the opportunity if the board wanted to make an opinion, positive or negative, and also include it as part of the record.
Board members?
I have a question. So when I first looked at this, I saw the third paragraph on the first page, which is 65 of our packet, where you talked about the different recommendations that were made. But then I see that this particular document is just referring to the resolution to allow heads of oversight agencies to request assistance from the AG's office. So all the things that you described in that paragraph, investment in real-time audits of body camera footage, etc., those aren't addressed in any, was that just by way of background?
That was way of background, just to refresh the memory of council what the full context is.
Okay, but you're not asking for those. And then the only suggestion I had on the resolution on page 68, the third whereas, and it says to obtain written legal opinions from the AG, excluding heads of civilian oversight agencies. And when I read that, I'm thinking, oh, is there an exclusion? But I don't think that's what you meant, right? It's not that there's an exclusion, it's just that they aren't included.
Right, and I can see it as confusion. I guess what we're trying to communicate is that there's a current law that allows state officials to get access to this, but it excludes civilian oversight agencies.
Right, and I'm just thinking, just for clarification, you might not say it excludes them, because if you have a law and you have exclusions, it doesn't explicitly exclude them, it just doesn't include them. So maybe just a sentence saying that, you know, heads of civilian oversight agencies are not one of the enumerated, you know, something just to tweak it, so
yes,
it's a little more clear.
Thank you.
Other board members?
So just on procedure, so this went to the did this go to council before, the city council before, and they just, or the council's public safety committee, and they just didn't take it up?
Right, so when the downtown task force report was written by the board, we transmitted that along with a companion report where we gave further observations and we gave this recommendation. But then the Agenda Rules Committee sent it to Public Safety for another look, and the Public Safety Committee looked at both reports presumably and didn't say anything about this particular recommendation, and neither did the full council.
So, and we don't know why they didn't say anything. They were just silent on the matter.
Right. And I don't know that they engaged with the companion report as much as they did with the board's report. So there was some confusion about that.
So the board wrote their report. And then the staff, the director, wrote a companion report. And for some reason, the Public Safety Committee and Council only engaged with the board's report. They didn't engage with the companion report that came from the director.
Chair, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the best course of action is, because I agree that it was an issue. I was leaning toward the second recommendation about clear lines of communication with the city manager. That was my initial reaction.
As opposed to this one, because those are two different items.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
thinking of the second one as opposed to this one.
I'm having the same perspective. I guess a question I have for staff or the director is this something that in those circles where you're with your colleagues from other police oversight agencies in the state, is this an issue that's come up more broadly? I know there's NACL, which is national. I don't know if NACL has a legislative or lobbying arm. Like, is there another vehicle for advancing this type of legislative change other than as a single oversight agency going up through its city council?
So, what I've observed in this field is that a jurisdiction may have a proposal and they raise awareness in the oversight community and invite them to sign letters of support. And they include that as part of their package when they go before their legislative body. And then that gives more support for their elected officials. So that is part of, I think the strategy here would be to, if we get our city council to agree, also raise awareness in our oversight community and say, hey, we would like to support this. Our council is already behind it. We think that this can benefit the whole community. In the same way, we just had recently the Andrew's brief request that went out broadly to the oversight from Sonoma, where they wanted practitioners to weigh in whether the subpoena issue could be further clarified. So I think that is the broader strategy here. But thinking of the BART example, when they were changing the language on their excited delirium, they also raised awareness, and then they were able to get broad support for the state legislative change on that. So.
Can I just follow up on what the vice chair was saying? I personally don't think the council would necessarily vote in favor of this resolution. And I also think, I'm not sure how effective it would be for them to broadly say the California legislature should do something. I mean, what you really do is you need an author, right? And so our former mayor, I guess is the chair of Public Safety Committee. So it would be more effective, I think, to reach out to him to see if he might be willing to sponsor a bill or put you in touch with someone who might champion this. I think that would be more effective than putting this out to our council.
I agree, and maybe just reaching out to your colleagues in the state to see what kind of support there is, because that's something that could be brought forward in Sacramento as well, or at least in a conversation with Senator Araguin.
Well, and that we did include that whereas in there because I think that specific nexus gives more, I think, opportunity for this. I don't know council's will and desires on many things as it relates to public safety, but I wasn't sure that this was a controversial one. In so far as is very neutral in the sense that it's just broadening the ability for other officials around the state to access the service. So I don't know that it puts the city at odds with anything. I think it's so broad that I think it's and maybe I'm wrong, I'm just not as politically astute as this board, but I don't see why something like this would be rejected.
When you're not asking for our blessing on this, this is something that you just want some feedback, right? But it's not
like potential action if we wanted to go in and indicate our support.
Right.
And so let me just call the question. Oh, Chair, you have your hand up?
Yeah, were you about to move on to something else? Because I had a couple points on strategy.
I'm just gonna call the question to see if there was any board member that wanted to make a motion for the PAB to support 9C1, but go ahead.
Okay, so in terms of strategy, I think just summarizing what has been said that, there's an opportunity at the next NACL national meeting to try to get support from other people in your position, director, and try to lobby a sponsor from the California legislature. And also in terms of communications with city manager, I think it would be very effective if your office was able to meet with the city manager's office and jointly submit this. And I would be very happy to see that if that was an option. I don't know if you've been able to reach them on this issue, but I think the council would be more receptive to it if that were the case.
Okay, so it sounds like that's additional feedback, but I would like to just move us along and see, is there anybody that's interested in making a motion for the PAB to affirmatively support 9C1, understanding the director's already submitted this item to council? So I think no, so that to support it as the PAB independently supporting something that's already
It's already been presented to council.
submitted, sorry.
It's
Submitted.
already been submitted.
That's what I understood for the
Yeah,
meeting.
well, you made it part of the companion report?
No,
No, there's a deadline to meet the September 30th, so. You already, right, so when we were opening up the floor for it, do you want to include anything additional?
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Oh, I thought this, I didn't realize it had already been.
I didn't understand that either.
okay, does that change something from my question? No, okay, so let's move on to 9C2.
That was again another recommendation from the downtown task force companion report. This one, I hear that the chair's a point here about the value of a joint presentation. I did the brief from when we arrived on the general matters. I didn't specifically ask to sort of co-sponsor this. But this is something, again, that I think from an investigative perspective, we're very mindful about how it could impact investigation. And not to rehash the issue and but we had concerns about the initial characterizations that were coming out about that investigation and even from the city manager's office. And there was no policy that was really direct in how this communication should go. We researched and found that the state bar has a really good model in terms of communication while there's a pendency of litigation or investigation. And we were trying to nudge the city to go in that direction, to put out a communication strategy or a policy that's specific to these high profile events that could be, they're definitely being followed closely by community members, and mischaracterization of it could really impact the investigation. There was a lot of mixed messaging coming out of City Hall on this, and it can be very tricky. And even at the Berkeley side, they recently reported over the summer that one of the officer involved shootings, that the Alameda District Attorney is not going to pursue the criminal charges against the officers. But one of the statements that again potentially be confusing in the article says the city has denied any wrongdoing. So we're in an active investigation, and if the city's already denying wrongdoing, it could prejudice and it could create a lot of confusion and undermine what we're trying to do here. So the idea is get the city council to direct the city manager, the city attorney to put some guidelines in place, some training in place, so we don't have mixed messaging and we have very careful messaging and communication around this.
What would you like from us?
The same thing, if there's any interest in making any opinions up or down, we'll have to include it as part of that record. Both of these were submitted for the September 30th.
Have you presented this to the city attorney's office, I suppose?
Not specifically presented to them, but they were provided this along with all the other stakeholders when we submitted the report.
Right, but they didn't, it seems like they didn't engage in anything in the supplemental report, right?
No, yes, that's correct.
And in the crafting of the supplemental report, were there discussions with the city attorney's office about this, I suppose?
No,
No, okay.
Anybody else, Chair, did you want to weigh in on this one?
Yeah, can you go, the recommendation is adopt a resolution. Can you go down to, what is your recommendation for us, Director? Because I agree with the, you know, the direction that this is going. I also, you know, yeah, I agree with the direction that this is going, but what are you asking us specifically to do?
so like the other recommendation, if the board has anything that they want to comment on this, whether negative or positive or additional, then we're happy to submit it as part of the record.
Did you want to vote from us in support or what?
We'll just open up the floor, whatever you want. If, again, it's not trying
So I
to.
think it's good. I agree with the chair. It's a good. It seems pretty straightforward.
Can I ask why, these two things, I haven't, and I apologize because I haven't read the supplemental report. But why not just re-present the whole supplemental report?
Too much.
Is too much?
Yeah, that
So
was
these were the two things out of the supplemental report that you felt like everything else was just like, whatever, it's less important.
No, I'm piecemealing it. I do think the other recommendations are important, but these are a little bit more time sensitive. And again, I thought that they were less controversial than some of the other ones that may have financial impacts. These two didn't really have one other than staff time, which I know is valuable, but the other ones may have, there were some recommendations about redoing the transparency hub, so that has more financial implications.
I see, so is the plan to kind of like break it up and then present it to the council in a piecemeal approach?
Yes.
So we'll see more of these in the future.
Potentially, yes. And that now with the feedback, also trying to see if there's more opportunities to work and massage some of the language with the internal stakeholders before, or if there's a way to even work it out where it doesn't go to full council and adopt it somehow.
Okay. Anybody else, or does anybody have a motion?
I mean, I would be in favor of a motion supporting this, but I don't know where it would go. Like, I don't think it would be procedurally that helpful to submit a supplemental material noting that we support, the PAB supports this. But if you think it's helpful to you to, or to, like, you know, in your discussions to say that you have the support of the PAB, I don't see any harm in making a motion to support your recommendation. So I guess, you know, that is a motion to support the director's recommendation here.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay. Okay, so on the motion to support the ODPA's recommendation, as part of item 9C2. We'll go ahead with the roll call vote, and the motion by Chair Cayetano, seconded by Board Member Calvita. Board Member Calvita?
Yes.
Board Member Lutwidge?
Yes.
Board Member and Board Member Williams, so step out for afternoon. Board Member Walls?
Yes.
Board Member Edmonds?
Yes.
Board Member Bozo Charco?
Abstain.
Board Member or Vice Chair Wilson?
Yeah.
And Chair Cayetano?
Yeah.
Okay. The motion carries.
All right, we'll move on to item 9C, Chair.
So this is a follow-up to the original letter that we wrote. And for reasons I'll explain, I think that it's compatible and complementary to the original letter that we wrote. But just for by way of background for the members of the public who are listening, the board submitted a public letter, you know, making recommendations about how to revise BPD policy around surveillance cameras, fixed surveillance cameras, in light of an item that was on council's agenda and in light of an item that was submitted to us pursuant to Berkeley Municipal Code. And the council adopted most of our recommendations in terms of revising the policy, except for the 30-day retention period. And on that retention period, the council sort of split and then tried to negotiate and then ended up voting on a 90-day retention period, and that vote failed 5-4. And so the board didn't make any comment on Flock specifically. There was like in the initial report that board member Edmonds drafted, there was a note about the process that went into choosing the vendor Flock. But we decided to not include that in the report and only focus on the policy. And so this letter follows up by focusing on Flock specifically, because in the last couple weeks there's been really increased scrutiny on Flock, so much so that different jurisdictions have been rescinding their contracts with Flock over data sharing agreements and data access agreements that Flock had with federal officials, specifically federal immigration authorities. And in the last week, Flock took away that access. But what was interesting to me is, having been at that council meeting, is that there was no acknowledgement by Flock that federal law enforcement agencies connected to immigration enforcement had access, and that this only came out because of an audit in different states, and that these reports have been coming out in the last couple of weeks, ever since the council has voted. And so I think because we had our eyes on this, and because this falls under the surveillance policy review that we have been undergoing, that I think it's incumbent on us to follow up and to bring to the council's awareness before they vote specifically to approve the Flock contract. And you'll notice that in this draft letter that I write, I don't make any mention about surveillance cameras in general. I just wanted to bring specific attention to the vendor Flock and to ask council to pause and to raise these questions again if they want to with Flock, or to consider other vendors in light of these reports. And what's interesting about one of these reports is that Flock actually contested the canceling of the contract. So the city moved to cancel services, and Flock basically said, no, you're going to owe us the money even if you don't use our services. And so by locking Berkeley into a contract, it could put us into this position where we would be paying Flock, even though we wouldn't, if there was a data breach that we became aware of like in a month, even though we would want to plug that hole. So I asked the board to consider this as a follow-up, very narrowly tailored follow-up, but something that I think the council should hear before their next council meeting on the 9th. But I'm open to feedback from other board members on the recommendation and the language in here as well.
I have a question related to the letter. Josh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
In your second bullet, you say several jurisdictions. Do you know which jurisdictions in particular have canceled or moved to cancel the partnerships?
Yeah, one of them is.
Oh, sorry, it's a footnote.
Yeah, the footnote maybe could be revised a little bit because a few of them are in Illinois, Evans, which is where the audit took place. One of them is Evanston, I believe the other one is Oaks Park. And then Denver is also looking at it. As you can see, this came out yesterday. And so there's action items on their calendar related to this. And then I believe there's another one in Texas as well. So that's why I use the word several. But I think that the footnote should reflect the specific jurisdictions, or at least like those two in Illinois that have officially rescinded as of yesterday.
I think my only suggestion is I would pull these out of the footnotes and put them in the bullets so that it's very prominent and specific.
Yeah, I mean, I would appreciate that recommendation. I think we could do that.
Other board member comments?
I just want to thank you for staying on top of this and being so up to date on it as of yesterday. And I fully support this letter. I think it's critical that we make council aware of this and that we pause on these contracts. So thank you. I don't know, I'm of two minds with regard to what board member Wells suggested, because I know that sometimes council really likes things very succinct and brief. And so I think maybe we could do both things, bring some of that information into the body of the thing, but without making those bullet points too long, because I think your letter reads really nice and concise.
It could just be a E.G.
Yeah.
Park and whatever, and instead,
Yeah.
because I wondered too, when I see several jurisdictions, I'm thinking, okay, well,
Yeah,
which ones?
right.
Yeah.
You could just do an EG.
Okay. I agree. I want to reiterate appreciation to the chair for staying on top of it, and you clarified for me why we would be sending another letter. That was a question I did have. So with that, I will make a motion to approve with modifications as discussed during this meeting, this letter going forward. I'll second that.
Okay, and move. Not proceed to the roll call vote or the motion to approve the letter of modifications. Board member Palomino,
Yes.
board member Lethbridge,
Yes.
board member Wells,
Yes.
board member Evans,
Yes.
board member Sharpo,
No.
vice chair Wilson,
Yes.
and chair Gaetano.
Yes.
The motion carries. Okay.
All right, we'll move to public comment.
Okay. As a reminder, speakers are generally allowed up to 3 minutes, and may be allowed enough time for everyone speakers. They may comment on any matter of the board's jurisdiction at this time, except confidential personnel matters. With that said, is there anybody physically present that like to provide some comment? Seeing none, I'll now move on to our virtual attendees. Anybody who's attending virtually, would like to provide public comment, please use the raise hand icon or press *9 if you're calling in. Let's try at this time to see what our hand is.
All right, with that, we will move into closed session.
Perfect. For those attending remotely, the audio and video recording will stop when the webinar will remain open. The board will reconvene to announce the closed session actions. Vice Chair, we are live.
Okay, I'm gonna report out, we have 3 report outs, that I will report out collectively. Case numbers 2025-CI-0011, 2025-CI-0022, and 2025-CI-0023. Reporting that the board advanced staff's recommendations in all 3 matters, and those cases are recommended for closure.
Okay. Our next item is adjournment. So if you can get a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
And the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.